What's up guys, it's Karrrisa the Destroyer. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 22nd episode in the series, Baby Kong Blues. By the name it suggests that Baby Kong will be making a return, however it is soon realized that this is not the same Baby Kong from Ape Fu Young, that being Baby Kong Prime, as Baby Kong Prime ceased to exist once the potion wore off in Ape Fu Young. Who is this current Baby Kong then, you ask? Well, this is Baby Kong Deceased. I gave him that name because he dies. Anyways, I'll fill you guys in on him more once he appears, but in the meantime, the Kremlings are having a meeting, and by a meeting I mean K. Rool screaming at Clump to take the crystal coconut. Thrilling stuff. When casually watching these episodes, it's easy to tune out these boring sections in which K. Rool just screams at Clump and Krusha, but it is getting tedious. Anyways, whenever I say that K. Rool is yelling at the Kremlings to get the coconut, know what I mean is, the first 1 to 2 minutes of this episode are boring. So yeah, DK and Diddy stop by this roach of a creature when visiting Dixie and Candy, and DK decides to babysit since it sounds fun, thus letting Candy and Dixie go fishing, which is the only thing Congo Bongians do for leisure assumedly. Baby Kong Deceased throws a tantrum so DK yells at Baby Kong Deceased, but this only causes Baby Kong Deceased to roam through the desert in a drunken sprint.
Baby Kong! Come back!
This leads to what is loosely a song.
Careful, Baby Kong! No, not again!
Not only is this lazily written, but it's also lazily animated. They avoid showing the small ape flying through the air, and at one point they even show him levitating through the air in a T-pose. I imagine when they were writing this episode they just put insert song here instead of actually writing a song that matters in any fashion. Eventually the foolish creature falls into Bluster's rocket, which leads to its death. So they find the crash landing, and I choose to believe that he actually died in a crash or inside the rocket, and the Baby Kong that they show after this is not the real Baby Kong Deceased. This is Baby Kong Deceased II Prince Jr. Croc. And Baby Kong Deceased II Prince Jr. Croc showed up after Baby Kong Deceased died. While I recognize that these two individuals do share many similarities, the two major differences are found in the inner traits of these individuals. That being speed and intelligence. So K. Rool will later remark that Baby Kong Deceased II Prince Jr. Croc is pretty smart for a monkey, which is unlike Baby Kong Deceased, who is remarkably fast. Another reason why there are definitely at least 3 Baby Kongs is that Baby Kong Deceased II Prince Jr. Croc left a brown footprint after the rocket. However, as shown here, Baby Kong Deceased clearly does not have a brown footprint when entering the rocket. When I'm talking to people about the different Baby Kongs, I often get remarks about confusion, and on account of such, I have created graphics so that people can recognize which Baby Kong they are looking at when watching a given episode. You can download a high-res version of this image to share with your coworkers off of my Twitter or Discord in the description. Anyways, Baby Kong Deceased II, Prince Jr. Croc gets his name when he arrives at K. Rool's mines and he decides to keep him. DK arrives and they demand that K. Rool gives Baby Kong Deceased II Prince Jr. Croc back, but he does not give him up and says that he will only give him up if he is given the crystal coconut, because the writers needed to fill 14 minutes. I mean, Donkey Kong thinks it's a better idea to not just beat K. Rool up. Diddy distracts Cranky while DK takes the coconut, and this is achieved by means of him teaching Cranky a dance, since he enjoys those so much. I'm actually quite fine with this, and find it to be a fun moment. Possibly the only fun moment of this episode. Meanwhile, at K. Rool's, Baby Kong is throwing a tantrum. Upon DK arriving with the crystal coconut, K. Rool does not want to give Baby Kong up, as he decides to adopt him. DK and Diddy decide to swap out Baby Kong with a disguised Diddy Kong. Over at K. Rool's mines, they show some father-son bonding when K. Rool serenades his sweet baby boy in the terrible song.
You are my prince, my little son. You're my little evil one.
The song has a gimmick in which K. Rool breaks off from singing to maniacally scream. I have no idea what the intention of this song was, but it fails in all regards and just ends up as an unfunny joke. Afterwards, DK switches out Diddy with BKD the second PJC, which leads to some antics that are ultimately negligible. Because the writers needed to fill 7 more minutes, DK was clumsy, DK has to persuade Carol into giving up Baby Kong. It works and the episode drags itself to the finish by being excessive. Despite recovering BKD the second PJC, he is never seen again. Thus he was probably sacrificed to Inka Dinkadoo in a traditional Mesoamerican fashion with his heart removed. Or otherwise he just died in some other fashion. The quality of this episode is really lacking, and I just find it to be boring for the entirety of the episode. I suppose this episode could be in part compared to some episodes that just invent themselves a way to create plot, but this episode also really is just boring even when things are going on. Baby Kong Prime, Baby Kong Deceased, and Baby Kong Deceased the Second Prince Jr. Croc are all awful characters, because babies are not sufficient characters in almost everything. He is notably similar to Jack Jack from Incredibles 2, in that he is used for comic relief revolving around how strong the babies are. Granted, Jack Jack does a slightly better job at this comedy, but really media often just treats babies as moving objects that just wander around like gonk droids, and that is what they are. But that is not what I want to see, because I want babies abolished from Donkey Kong Country. Carol does not bring any interesting motives and is incredibly standard. Really, in this show, the cast is often just good or bad. Most of the time, bad characters won't shine, and this is purely the case with this episode. How does this episode rank? This episode ranks around Raiders of the Lost Banana, and while I could go on debating knickknacks with myself about all the small bad parts of these episodes, really these two are just, for the most part, identical in terms of bad episodes. So I have to ask myself, would I rather hear Baby Kong Deceased 1 and 2 whine for a long time, or hear some unintelligible garbage from a stupid canary? Well, on account of me preferring the stupid canary, as well as one of the songs in Raiders of the Lost Banana being good, I can definitively say that this episode is the worst in this series that I've reviewed so far. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this short review. As a reminder, the Baby Kong fact table will be posted in my Discord and Twitter below, so join there unless you are currently in the White Mountains.